The Brompton is the iconic folding bike. It's utterly distinctive, whether that's on the luggage rack of a commuter train or out on city streets. The design has remained true to the original for 50 years, but now there is a new Brompton in town. The G-Line. Like a Brompton in hiking boots. Bigger wheels, wider, grippier tyres, disc brakes, and fit and handling tuned not just to city streets, but to longer rides. And did someone say gravel? Yeah, they did. Woo-hoo! Plus, there's even a range of rugged accessories too. This old thing. Yeah, it's my G-Line luggage. To find out more and compare this new G-Line with the original iconic Brompton, we have come to their factory in West London, where frames are brazed, bikes are built as they have been for nearly 50 years. Albeit in a much bigger space. Now, I am going to get the lowdown on this new bike from Brompton's Chief of Design and Engineering, plus also the design lead on this specific model. But honestly, I feel pretty well qualified to talk to you about it myself, given that, I don't know whether you know, I'm actually the second best Brompton rider in the world. What do you mean, where's number one? I don't know. He's probably got like a proper job or something. Jeez. Even though Bromptons still today look very similar to that original from 50 years ago, there has been plenty of evolution along the way, but this G-Line is the biggest step yet. Now, you can see immediately that it is bigger than its traditional stablemates, but that said, this too is still true to the original spirit of that original Brompton. The fold and unfold mechanism is exactly the same. Handlebars, seat, unfold, lock it into place. Now it's unfolded, the differences are even clearer. You can see, for the first time ever, Brompton have supersized the wheels, so increase from the 16-inch on the traditional bike up to 20 inches, and with bigger volume, wider, more rugged tyres. Now that immediately changes how the bike rides, so a larger diameter wheel rolls over bumps more easily. Not something that is ever an issue on a standard traditional Brompton on city streets, but venture into more demanding terrain, and it can be. But those larger diameter wheels also change the way the bike feels to ride. Now, we will go into nerdy bike geometry stuff later on with the help of our engineers. Stay tuned for that. But in essence, by increasing that wheel diameter and tweaking some very important aspects of the bike's geometry, Brompton say this now feels like a full-size bike. So perhaps a little bit mellower for if conditions are more demanding, or making it better suited for longer bike rides. That said, the longest ever single ride on a traditional Brompton was the 879-mile Land's End to John O'Groats route in the UK in just 83 hours. So clearly, anything is possible with the right rider. What will definitely also help comfort on longer rides, particularly for smaller and taller riders, is that this Brompton, unlike any Brompton that's come before it, is available in 3 different sizes. So effectively the frame remains the same. You have all that adjustment on the seat post anyway, but the reach to the handlebars varies. So you never need feel too cramped or too stretched out. And again, for more comfort and perhaps more control on longer and more rugged rides, you've got a wider handlebar with ergonomic grips, you've got wider, grippier pedals, and you've also got, as standard, an 8-speed Shimano Alpine hub gear. That extra ruggedness does mean that this is a little bit heavier than a standard Brompton. So in its lightest configuration, this one comes in at 13.9 kilos. With the rack and the mudguards that I've got here, it then comes in at 14.8 kilos. With an electric motor on, it then goes up to 19.5. For comparison, the lightest Brompton you can buy, the super duper svelte titanium T-Line model, is between 7.45 and 8.0 11.8 kilos. But then that is a completely different proposition with a different use case in mind as well. The traditional C-Line is about 11.35 kilos. And then the P-Line, which is probably equivalent to this in terms of specification and price, is about 10.4 kilos. Now that is a lot of nerdy weight chat. So basically, I can lift a titanium Brompton with my little finger. I'm happy to carry my C-Line Brompton through a train station, even with my slender frame. This one though, I'd happily carry it to platform 3. I'd probably want to wheel it to platform 13, which handily you can do using the rollers on the rear rack here. That extra weight, though, is not something that you notice when riding the bike. What you do notice instead is just how much it actually does ride like a full-size bike. I mean, the smaller wheels give it a certain extra agility and responsiveness, and perhaps they do lose a little bit of efficiency compared to a full-size gravel bike on the rough stuff. But then that's not really the point. It's still a Brompton, and therefore it can do this. Perhaps the biggest difference between the bikes for me is how they feel to ride out of the saddle. So on a traditional Brompton, it takes a bit of getting used to. I think it's fair to say that bike was not designed to be ridden in that way. But if you're going to do longer rides, and particularly if you're going off-road, you need to be able to ride out of the saddle. And this one feels good. It feels like a full-size bike. It feels familiar. The brakes on a traditional Brompton are plenty strong enough for any urban situation, but disc brakes are way better when there is dirt involved, both in terms of braking performance and also durability, particularly of your rims. Now, Brompton are at pains to say that this is no mountain bike, but would you hold it against me if I went and had a little go? I said earlier that all Bromptons are made here in this factory in West London, apart from the T-Line, the titanium bike, which is actually made by titanium specialists in Sheffield, which is a city a couple of hours north of here, and then the frame is shipped down. But you can see production in full swing for the G-Line. We've got frames being brazed up there, and then just a little bit further over, we've got wheels being built, then we've got bikes being assembled. Ultimately, you get the finished product down the end of the factory there. And also the electric G-Line, that's also being assembled a little bit further down. Now, given that the traditional iconic Brompton is already so wildly successful, I did wonder why Brompton are making this G-Line and how they have done it. So, found me a couple of engineers. Will Carley-Smith is the Chief Design and Engineering Officer at Brompton, and Tom Kerr is the design lead on this G-Line project. So firstly, guys, why have Brompton made this?
Yeah, a few reasons. I mean, Brompton's obviously designed for a city. It was designed by Andrew as a response to living in London as this tool to kind of getting around the city. And then we've grown from that, initially, primarily all about cities, but it's become this kind of product that people have fallen in love with and have pushed, and like anything that people fall in love with, they want to do more with it. They push and they push and they push. So we've had people, cycling up at the North Pole and doing, Paris, Brest, Paris, race across America and, taking the bike beyond the city. And it's tough and it works, but it's maybe not optimized for that. So there's we can see the existing users pushing. We obviously would like to bring more people to Brompton, and we think that with a bike like this, people that otherwise would not consider Brompton would come to us. And the third thing is probably just ourselves. So we are a company of people that build bikes, design bikes, and we ride bikes. So there's also that internal thing where the staff here also wanted something cool to ride. So it's the kind of existing customers, new people we can bring to Brompton, and also just something for ourselves.
Cool. And so it's taken 4 years, I think I'm right in saying, of hard work to get to this point. I'm guessing then that the process of upsizing a regular Brompton is not a simple one. So what have the biggest challenges been for you guys?
Sure, so the 16-inch bike is fully optimized to be the most portable compact bike out there. And as a result of that, it has a very unique character to it. So with this, the challenge was actually to say, okay, how can we get this to be the best riding folding bike out there? And then to get it to fold up as secondary to that. So we literally started again, blank sheet of paper, diagnosed all the different elements of geometry that goes into a bike. Didn't really actually look too much at the 16-inch bike to start with. The 20-inch wheels dictated a really clear starting point for us. And then we looked at all of the different elements of it. So wheelbase, front center, rear center, BB height, wheel drop, stack, reach, everything independently and then in combination. So effectively we worked our way through geometry going, oh, this feels good, this doesn't feel so good. And then we ended up with the geometry that we've got for the G-Line. That was step one. Then step two was obviously making sure that it folded. What we've also tried to do with this product is actually modernize it in a sense that it's sort of more competitive with a non-folding bike. So it's all about that big bike feel, and that isn't just in geometry, that's in the ride position, that's in the brakes, that's in the gearing option, and then everything else that also goes into a bike. At the end of the day, we've got to live up to the legacy of the 16-inch bike in some regard, and we're very conscious of that, and that's why we've spent so much time in developing this product. So really, the combination of getting it to ride in a comfortable, controlled way, while still being fun as well, right? The small wheel gives you a huge benefit for being sort of nippy and very responsive, but we wanted to sort of take the edge off of that a little bit, being that we know that this bike is going to be ridden over long distances and varied terrain as well. One of the amazing things about a Brompton is that it is accessible to a whole raft of people who don't have to put on Lycra to go out for a bike ride. And it can be a bike for your everyday journey to the shops, or it can be a bike that you can go on and do 3 to 4 hours at the weekend if you really want to, and even more so with the G-Line in that instance.
The last thing you need to know about the new Brompton G-Line is the price. So it starts at £2,395. This one with the mudguards on the rack is £2,495. And for the electric version, it's £3,495. Now, I will be super interested to hear your thoughts on this new Brompton, the biggest development from Brompton since it was invented, basically. So get involved in the comments section down below. Huge thanks to Brompton for having us here today. Give this video a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. I'm going to go do some training now for next year's Brompton World Championships.